We want to begin with that verdict at an Oshawa courthouse late this afternoon in the case of a Toronto police officer and his brother charged with assaulting Devontae Miller. For more on the verdict and the reaction to it, let's bring in the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick. She joins us from the courthouse. Hi, Megan. Good to see you. Tell us about this case and, of course, that verdict.
Well, as you mentioned, Vashi, this has been going on for several years now. The two brothers, Michael and Christian Theriault, originally charged each with aggravated assault and obstruction of justice. What happened today, the headline out of this was that Michael Theriault was found guilty not of aggravated assault, but of a lesser charge of just assault. And then both brothers were cleared on the obstruction of justice charges, and Christian Theriault also cleared on the charge of aggravated assault. Essentially, Justice Joseph DeLuca said he wasn't satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that it was an aggravated assault, and that is what he has to base his decisions on, and so he found him guilty instead of the lesser charge. This does date back to an incident in 2016, and there are two different versions of events of what happened that December night, Vashi. The brothers saying they were in the garage at their parents' home when they say they caught Devontae Miller and his friend breaking into the vehicle in the driveway, that they gave chase to him, caught up with him, and that a fight ensued, but that they fought back in self-defense. And what was key to this case was the issue of a metal pipe, Vashi. Who used it, where it came from. Devontae Miller argued he was walking down the street with his friends, essentially minding his own business, when the brothers started harassing the group, gave chase, and the fight ensued. He says it was them that were using the pipe against him to attack him. The injuries he suffered were so severe that he did lose sight in his left eye. Now, the judge obviously had to weigh these two versions of events, and it was interesting at the beginning of his judgment, which took him about 4 hours to read, Vashi. The judge said that this case is arising, obviously, in a context of recent events and the spotlight being on anti-Black racism, the treatment of Black people by police. Michael Theriault was an off-duty police officer with the Toronto Police Service at the time, but the justice saying that this case does prompt a lot of questions about the police treatment of Black people, but it's not for him to get into those issues in this case, that this trial had to be based, and his decisions had to be based on evidence, not on public opinion. But he said that some of these issues do warrant further examination.
Against the backdrop, Megan, of the context that you just described, what kind of reaction to the verdict has there been so far?
Well, there were people here all morning, Vashi, supporters of Devontae Miller, gathered to listen to the live stream of the decision. In an unusual move, it was broadcast on YouTube because the courthouse is closed because of the pandemic. So people were listening to it on their cell phones, and it was being played on speakers. They said they were here for justice for Devontae Miller, but also other young Black men who have had these kinds of experiences as well. They were looking for guilty verdicts on all 4 counts. So there was some disappointment that that's not what happened. Devontae Miller and his lawyer spoke after the decision. He expressed some disappointment as well that it wasn't a guilty verdict on all charges, but he also expressed gratitude to the support that he's been getting from the community. Here's some of Devontae Miller.
A lot of my brothers and sisters are going through similar situations as me, and a lot of times people are dying and officers are walking, So I don't feel like I took a loss. I feel like we took a step forward. I could have easily been convicted of one of those charges that they put on me that night when I lost my eye. But instead, I'm here today. Mm-hmm. So I don't feel like I took a loss. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a long way to go, and we just took a step forward.
The charges he was referencing there, Vashi, include charges that were laid against Devontae Miller that night. Those were later dropped by the Crown, but his lawyer, in part, is arguing for a federal public inquiry to help get at some of the questions in this case and broader ones. He says there's still a lot of unanswered questions about how the Toronto police handled this case, as well as the Durham police. And one of those questions is how these bogus charges, the lawyer said, were laid against Devontae Miller. For his part, he says he's looking forward to getting on with his life, Vashi.
All right, thanks for those details and the update, Megan. The CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick outside a courthouse in Oshawa. As we just heard from Toronto Police Chief Saunders in the last hour, he says his heart goes out to Devontae Miller, who lost an eye in that incident, and that the Toronto Police Service has, quote, a lot of work to do. Take a listen to the chief.
As chief, I can't deny that this matter will have an increased strain on a relationship between the police and the community, specifically the Black community. especially those who have lived experiences of discrimination in the justice system or by the police. I speak to those today when I appeal to you to take this decision to voice your concerns, your experiences, and your desire for change in a peaceful and constructive way. We know that public trust is everything.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.